Welcome to InsectTech's Ethical Hacking course videos, module Proxies. In this video, we'll look at introduction to proxies, purpose of proxies, types of proxies, setting up our own proxy to understand how it actually works. And we'll have couple of demonstrations to understand how we can use these proxy servers. Basically, proxy server is a server that acts as an intermediary for requests from clients seeking resources from other servers. Here we have a picture of it. First, the client connects to the proxy server requesting some service, a file, a web page, or any other resource which is actually available on a different server. Then this particular proxy server evaluates the request according to its filtering rules. For example, this particular proxy server may filter traffic by IP address or some protocol. If the request is validated by the filter, the proxy provides the resources by connecting to the relevant server and requesting the resource or service on behalf of the client. Now why to use these proxies? The first one, if you are using a proxy server and if you are trying to connect to some website, your IP address will be invisible. Rather, the proxy's IP address will be displayed on the target server, so that it is keeping us anonymous. So mainly for security purposes we use proxies, and the proxy servers will also be used as cache servers. They can be used to save bandwidth. In organizations, for logging and audits, we can use proxy servers. If you take an example, we can log all the communication data which is actually going out of our organization just by using a simple proxy. And the most important one for students in colleges, the administrators will block the websites like Facebook, Twitter, Orkut and all. So to bypass their web filtering, we can use proxies. Now at a high level, we have three kinds of proxies. One is forward proxy, open proxy and reverse proxy. Now let us look at each of these types briefly. The first one is forward proxies. This particular figure represents a forward proxy. This particular forward proxy takes requests from an internal network and forwards those requests onto internet. An open proxy is a variant of these forward proxies. If you take an open proxy, that will be available for all the users on internet, wherein this forward proxy will be available only for the computers which are in this particular network. So this is about forward proxies, and the next one is reverse proxies. If you observe the figure, the reverse proxies takes requests from internet and forwards them to the server. It is just placed before the web server, so all the connections coming from internet to the server are routed through this particular proxy server. So it can also be used as a load balancing or for load balancing, and even as a caching server. At a later level, these proxies have been divided into a couple of other types, and we are going to discuss few among them. The first one is transparent proxy. It's a proxy which reveals the IP address of the proxy being used as well as the IP address of the client who is using the proxy server, and it doesn't modify the request or response beyond what is required for proxy authentication. And the next one is non-transparent proxy. It modifies the request or response in order to provide some added service to the user agent. And the third one is CGI proxy. It accepts the target URLs within a user's browser window and processes the request and then displays the contents of the requested URL immediately back within the user's browser. And you can see in the figure, I have opened a browser and within that I have opened a CGI proxy, and within that CGI proxy I have entered www.facebook.com, and it has processed my request and it is displaying the results within my browser itself. So we are going to see how to configure our own CGI proxy on our local host in a couple of minutes. And the next one is anonymous HTTPS proxies. These anonymous HTTPS proxies can easily bypass the web filtering, because this particular proxies will encrypt all the users' requests with HTTPS. Since the traffic is getting encrypted, the web filter cannot distinguish between the transactions that are coming from these HTTPS proxy and a normal proxy. So it is always better to use anonymous HTTPS proxies to prevent anyone from monitoring us. And the next one is the onion routing Tor. You can look at the figure here. This particular Tor is a system intended to enable online anonymity. It consists of a client software and a network of servers. We just have to download the client software and we have to run it on our computer system. It will try to automatically connect to this network of computers, and this particular Tor can mask information about users' locations and other factors which might identify the users. Now, use of this system makes it more difficult to trace internet traffic to the user, including visits to websites or online posts or instant messages and other communication forms. And this particular Tor software is open source and the entire network is free to use. That is the beauty of Tor, and we are going to see how we can use this Tor application to bypass or to keep ourselves anonymous on internet. Now let us see how we can use these web or CGI proxies to hide our IP addresses on internet. I'm just opening my browser and I have already opened the website proxy.org, wherein I can get a lot of web proxy servers. You can see the list of all these proxies here, and you can use any web proxy you want. I have opened newip.com and I'm just going to check my IP address on this particular site using whatismyip.com, and I can prefer any IP address I want which is among the IP addresses listed here, and I'm just going to use the IP address from Netherlands. It is a premium IP. Just let me go back, and we have a couple of free IP addresses. Let me open this from Houston. It is not available right now, so let me use this 198.27.80.132, and it is opening google.com. Now let me open whatismyip.com to check which IP address is getting displayed from my system. You can see 198.27.80.132 is the IP address which is getting displayed to the real web server, and this particular IP address is not mine, but it is of the proxy server which I am using. To conclude, I'm just opening the same website whatismyip.com from some other proxy which is proxymenow.com, and if you observe, some other IP address will be displayed from here, and this particular IP address is of this proxymenow.com, and this particular IP address is of bowlinggreen.newxip.info. So this is how we can hide our IP addresses using web proxies. So if you browse anything right from this web proxy, the IP address of the proxy will be displayed but not your actual IP address. So let us quickly go back to a presentation. Now let us see how to configure our browser to use a proxy IP address so that we can hide our IP address. I'm just going to open the website samair.ru, samair.ru, which is actually maintaining a lot of proxy IP addresses. So I'm just clicking this proxy list, and I'm just going to check out the proxy list sorted by time, and we have many proxies, and I'm just going to use the proxy from China, which is 112.25.14.46, which is on port number 8090. So let me configure my Firefox to use that proxy. Options, settings, click manual proxy configuration, and port number is 8090. Just click OK and click OK. Now check your IP address by just running whatismyip.com. It will show the IP address which we have configured in our browser. So, and that particular IP address will be displayed anywhere rather than our original IP address, which is provided by our ISP. Now you can see the IP address displayed. This is the IP address which we configured in our browser, which is 112.25.14.46. You can see there, and now anyone would see this particular IP address from our system. So this is how we can configure our browser to use a proxy IP address. Let us quickly go back to our presentation, and the next one is disadvantages of using proxies. You can see the data is mostly sent in an unencrypted form. So all the data sent through the proxy server can be easily seen, including your usernames and passwords. So malicious proxy server administrator may be able to see everything, including your usernames and passwords, and connections will be very slow because of these proxies, because the request will first go to the proxy, and from there the request will go to the intended server. So speed also will be very less when compared to a direct connection. Now let us see how we can use Tor to hide our IP addresses. First of all, we need to download Tor from their official website and install it, and in your all programs you can see Vidalia bundle, and run your Vidalia application so that it will show something like this. And once after establishing a connection to Tor network, it will show that it is connected to the Tor network. So once after connecting to the Tor network, all we have to do is open your browser and browse whatever the web application you want. So that's all. Application, even if it is blocked by an administrator, it will be opened. So this is how we can use Tor, and we have already seen how this Tor works. If you go back to our presentation, in our presentation we have given a simple image. Let me bring it forward. So let us say this is our client, which is our system, and we want to access this particular target system. Let us say this is a target server. Now if you use Tor, your request will be sent through multiple number of nodes. For example, your request is sent to this particular node first, and from there the request is sent to this particular node, and from there it is sent to this node, and from there it is sent to the actual destination. And when the response is coming back, it doesn't need to be the same route which has taken in the request. It can be any other route, like it can come from here to there and there to here and from here to the client. So this is how Tor works. This is why it is giving a lot of anonymity for the user. Tracing a user is very difficult if he is using Tor network. And the next one is HTTP tunneling. In HTTP tunneling technique, all the communications performed using various TCP/IP network protocols will be encapsulated using HTTP protocol, and the encapsulated HTTP stream and the channel that we use to pass the traffic, put together we call it HTTP tunneling. Now let us understand what happens in the backend. We have a tunnel client and we will have a mediator server, and this is the target host which we want to connect to. And first, this tunnel client will open a HTTP connection to a mediator server. Then it communicates with the mediator server by using HTTP requests. The most important point here is it encapsulates all the actual communication within these HTTP requests. Now this mediator server unwraps all the actual data which is received from this tunnel client before forwarding it to the target host. And when it receives the data from the remote host or the target host, it wraps it in the HTTP protocol, and then it will send it as the HTTP response to the tunnel client. So this is how HTTP tunneling works. Now let us see a simple demonstration of how we can work with this HTTP tunneling. I have already downloaded HTTP tunnel client. I'm just running it, and you can see this is trying to connect to the server, which is the intermediate server, and I have no serial key. I'm just going to use a free service, and you can see it has been connected to the server 206.161.99.149, and the version I'm using is 4.4.4.000, and you can just click this and you can observe this is running on port 1080, and you can test the configuration by just clicking test. If your test is successful, and you can simply use the default configuration with that, now you'll be able to browse any website which is actually blocked by your administrator. That's all. This is how this is very simple to use. First of all, we need to download this HTTP tunnel client. If you run it, it will try to connect to the mediator server automatically. So all the requests we send will be gone to that mediator server, and from there all the requests will be sent to the target host. Let us quickly go back to our presentation. The next one is UltraSurf. This is a software based proxy. We can simply download the software and we can simply run it to bypass the administrator's restrictions. The advantages as per their website are encrypt online communications. We can encrypt our communications just by using this UltraSurf. We can hide our IP address from websites we visit. No installation is required. We can simply download it and we can simply run it, and page loading will be very faster, and this is easy to use. Let's have a quick demonstration of how we can use this UltraSurf. First, I'm just going to open this UltraSurf. It will open a lock icon. When it is started, it will start a lock icon which is yellow in color. You can see this. So once if you get this yellow icon, you'll be able to browse any website which is actually blocked by your administrator. So it is loading my it is starting my Internet Explorer automatically, and in this Internet Explorer you can simply browse any website which is actually blocked. So it will bypass that web filters. So very simple. You can simply download it from their official website and run it. If you run it, it will open a simple icon which is yellow in color, and once if it loads, it will automatically open your default browser. It is in our case this is Windows Internet Explorer. So we can simply browse any website we want in this browser. Let me exit from this and let me quickly go back to my presentation. And the next one is setting up our own proxy server to understand how these proxies actually work. For this demonstration, we need a server, and I'm just going to show this particular demonstration on WAMP. You can even use XAMPP, or you can use any third-party web hosting service. And first of all, we need to download Glype proxy script from their official website, which is glype.com, and you can simply go to this link and you can download Glype software script and put all these files. After downloading, put all these files in www directory if you are using WAMP, or htdocs directory if you are using XAMPP. And once after this, just open your www directory and go to open your WAMP or XAMPP directory and go to your bin php and open your php.ini file, and I am opening my configuration file over here, and just search for curl and uncomment this particular line, which is extension equals to php underscore curl dot dll. Glype proxy is going to use this particular line. By default, it will be commented by with semicolon, so we just have to remove it. So that's all. If you are done with this, we will be able to use our proxy. Just save it, close it. Now open your browser and run it in localhost/proxy. Now if anyone tries to open any website, let us say google.com, you just have to give your public IP address instead of local host over here. If you want it to use from outside, you just browse it using your public IP address /proxy. I have just created a directory called proxy in my www directory, so I'm just using it localhost/proxy. But in your case, if you have put them in www directory directly, you don't need to specify this /proxy. Now I'm just trying to open this google.com using my through my proxy, and great, it is actually getting displayed. Now let me go back and let me open the administrators page of this Glype proxy using admin.php. This is my control panel where I can specify the options for the users, and I'm just logging in. Forgot the password. Okay, great, I have logged in, and now you can check it has the environment which is running in PHP and curl, and the control panel version is 1.2, Glype version is 1.2, and the latest Glype version is 1.4.4. and now if you go up, you can edit the settings in which you can block the IP addresses, you can even block the domain names. And if you see, I have blocked twitter.com and facebook.com for my users. So if I open this localhost/proxy, users will not be able to open facebook.com since I have blocked it in my proxy. You can see this message, sorry, this proxy doesn't allow the requested site facebook.com to be viewed. And if you try to open any other website or else google.com, it will be opened. Great. So this is how your administrators block your websites. We have couple of other interesting options. We can ban the IP addresses over here, and we can whitelist, so that if we specify any websites here, those websites will only be allowed to be viewed. And this is where I am actually storing my logs, so you can see the logs over here, view logs, and this is a raw log. I have just visited google.co.in, and this is how a malicious attacker can maintain a proxy server, and he can view whatever the surfing you are doing. And we have some other options where we can change a theme and URL encoding, and yes, this is one more interesting option, cookies. We can even store cookies on the server. So this is how many people are maintaining proxies. If you go to proxy.org, many proxy servers that they are maintaining are being maintained using Glype. You can see here. So this is how they are maintaining Glype proxies on their systems. So now we have seen how to use, how to maintain, how to set up our own proxy. You can see my username, this is running on my system, and you can simply log out. You can go through a couple of other options if you are interested. This is how we can maintain our own proxies, and we can understand how they're actually doing logging and all. So let me quickly go back to my presentation. That's all with this